And a brief disclaimer before we start tonight's program, as we always have some sort of disclaimer, and tonight's disclaimers are similar to what we have talked about before. In the sense that during this program, we'll talk about topics that we've covered over the last season, or the last 2 seasons, in fact, related to mental health, but the journey itself. So we're going to talk about mental health at some point, and this is a reminder that if you have any questions about mental health and you want to go seek help for that, contact SAMHSA, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, at 1-800-662-HELP. It's 1-800-662-4357. That service is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And it's a confidential, free information service for individuals and family members facing such stressors. Also, if you're feeling suicidal crisis or emotional distress and need to be put in touch with a crisis center, contact the Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-TALK. That's 1-800-273-8255, or go to suicidepreventionlifeline.org. You can also text the word HOME to 741-741. Those resources are also available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And then the other part of the story that we've covered in this venture forward since the last 2 months, in fact, actually since January, is that of multiple sclerosis. And it's a reminder that the National MS Society is a collective of passionate individuals who want to do something about MS now, to move together towards a world free of multiple sclerosis. Multiple sclerosis is comprised of unpredictable and often disabling flare-ups of the central nervous system. Such flare-ups disrupt the flow of information within the brain and between the brain and the body. The National MS Society is the largest private funder of MS researchers in the world, investing more than $1 billion to date. MS stops people from moving, but the National MS Society exists to make sure that MS doesn't. To contact the National MS Society, please call 1-800-344-4867. Again, 1-800-344-4867, or go to their website at nationalmssociety.org. One other note. We're going to talk about the MS Virtual Walk this year, MS Walk, that's being held on May 1st. We had a wonderful guest last week that talked about it, in Susan Williams. I want to talk about basically a campaign that I'm starting for the MS Walk as well in the National MS Society. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about why I'm live streaming. We'll talk about all of that. Let's begin. When I didn't tell my story, I felt like there was a darkness around me. And certainly, given the addictions that I had, there was a darkness around me. But the thing is, when you start live streaming, there's a light that forms around you. There's a trueness to everything. There's a chance to start telling a story. A very important story. A story that I can only tell. My own story. That is why I live stream. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how I learned how to live stream tonight. We're also going to talk about the next steps with Oservis and the MS diagnosis. We're also going to talk about what goes on from there. Because this is the venture forward. Good evening, or good morning, or good afternoon, wherever you may be, and welcome to the Venture Forward. I am John Venturini, a recovering addict of compulsive gambling, overeating, and alcoholism. And it's an honor and pleasure to see all of you tonight on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. We've talked about a lot of things on this show. We talked about the things that have been stressors in my life, the things that I had to overcome in order for me to continue living some sort of life. Tonight, we're going to talk about why it became apparent for me to start telling my story. And I guess the other thing is the light bulb that went over my head that told me to do that, in addition to writing a book, in addition to basically transcribing a lot of the things I've been writing over the last 2 years and change. We're going to talk about that tonight. We're also going to talk about a wonderful workshop that taught me how to live stream. We're also going to talk about the MS Walk charity team that we have formed for the walk that's coming up on May 1st. So we're going to talk about all of that tonight. I want to say hi to those of you that are joining us on live Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Sarah, hi, how are you? Sarah. Marilyn, hi, how are you? I think Sarah's in here too. It's great to see all of you tonight as we talk about what's going on. I think the first thing I wanted to talk about tonight is the fact that tomorrow I will be going to Penn Medicine in Philly for my first of 2 starter doses of Oservis. Oservis or Ocrevus or whichever way you want to pronounce it. I've heard it pronounced 9 different ways rather. Is something that targets your B cells. Because I guess the overall sort of research has stated that multiple sclerosis, demyelination, is a bit of an autoimmune disorder that attacks your B cells, or basically has your B cells forming lesions along your central nervous system, along that sort of nerve sheath that's supposed to protect you, starts withering away. And it gets to a point where things like trying to talk straight, things like trying to hear, trying to see, trying to feel, trying to walk, become a challenge. Because those pathways are now disrupted. There's basically a major disruption between the brain and the central nervous system and the rest of your body. So tomorrow, I will have had completed that first starter dose of Oservis. It's a 5 to 6 hour infusion. The first 2 starter infusions are the same length of time, but half the dosage, and they're given 2 weeks apart. I'm held for about an hour afterwards to see if there's any sort of adverse effect, any sort of allergic reaction, to capture vitals, etc. There's a whole host of different things that come from the Oservis infusion, side effects or whatnot. They're not terrible side effects given the landscape of the multiple sclerosis drugs that are there to help modify the disease. That's why Oservis resonated to me. That's also why Oservis resonated to my neurologist. So that's going to be tomorrow, and it's going to be the 14th. I'm going to try to take some video of the infusion tomorrow. I'm not guaranteeing that I'll be able to do a live stream, but I want to capture this because that's part of my life. That's part of this sort of rehabilitation of the things that have gone in my way by way of demyelination and multiple sclerosis. Sue joining us on YouTube. Good evening. Glad we are all here. Sue, glad you're there too. Hope you're enjoying this beautiful day It's a beautiful sunny day today, as I'm sure you caught from the intro. Um, I guess spring is really trying to turn the corner here, so it's good. It's very good. Um, Another thing, they say those that have multiple sclerosis or have demyelination are usually deficient in vitamin D, as well as vitamin B12. So any chance I can get some vitamin D by way of sunshine is good for sure. So definitely glad with the weather. Definitely is helping for for try to keep those vitamin D levels up a bit. Um, so we go back to 2019, and we talked about exactly why losing the weight was the most important thing I can do, and obviously was. At 480 pounds, there was nothing I could do. I could barely walk around, and having lost the weight twice before and now being morbidly obese, a type 4 morbid obesity, I had to do something. But I also had to identify why this happened, why these things got in my way. So I started trying to figure out ways to journal and write this. Once the idea of journaling came to me, a dear friend gave me a journal. You should journal. And a therapist said, journal, you should journal. Yes, journaling is very important as far as trying to overcome a lot of these things, as well as meditation. So as I've been collecting notes, as I've been telling the story, it became very apparent that there is a lot to teach and a lot to share. So I've been doing my best to try to capture all that. I've been using a journaling service called Day One. Have about a year and a half worth of entries in there. I have another half a year's worth of entries in Microsoft Word docs and other places. So I've collected enough of a story, as well as wrote basically the greatest sort of formulation of things that I could, given how the story keeps on changing. So you have that. But then came the thought, well, maybe I should podcast, or maybe I should do something on another art form to start telling this story, to start sharing this information. When that thing that I cannot mention because I don't want to be demonetized, that encompass a good portion of 2020 is encompassing us now, was about, and going to an AA meeting or an OA meeting or a GA meeting was next to impossible, at least physically. I had to find recovery groups, and I did. Very blessed to get to know folks like Sober James and LT Weaver and now Recovering Addict and Real Recovery with Nicole and a couple others. They've helped me try to put a handle to all this. I started doing the work, but what they did was they bolstered and solidified that. Even boosting the case that I need to tell my story. So we fast forward to July of 2020, and there was an advertisement for something called LEDA, which stands for Live Every Day in August. It is a workshop where you basically live stream every day in a private Facebook group to tell your story. It is not a workshop where you're testing your technical ability. It's not a workshop where you got to check your lighting or what sort of equipment you're doing stuff on. As many people will say, if you have one of these, you could do LEDA. Well, I have one of those. So I did LEDA. And LEDA is basically, let me cut over to PowerPoint here. LEDA is basically an incredible program through an organization called Live Streaming Pros. And they do it twice a year. They do it in April. They do it in August. LEDA, standing for, in this case, for Live Every Day in April, starts on, as funny as it should say, Thursday, April 1st. And basically, it is a test a workshop, an exercise for someone to tell their story in front of a camera for every day in April. Is it uncomfortable? Yeah, you bet it is. Does it take some nerves to get over to say, oh my God, I'm going in front of a camera? Yeah. But the good news is you're doing it within a private group. And I got to say, some of the greatest people you could ever meet. Because these are people that want to do the same thing. So now you want to tell your story. They want to tell their story. Those that have done LEDA before want to get better at telling their story. And you're all here together. You're all here rooting each other on. And from that, you basically form an incredible, enriching experience. Not only from the sake of, hey, I want to start live streaming, but, hey, I want to start telling my story. Hey, I'm actually putting words around this. It's tough in the sense that you're going to get in front of the camera every day. But I think the thing you feel at the end of every single exercise, which is every day, is that, one, I didn't realize I could do that, and boy, I can. And second, this is, the more you do it, the easier it gets. Because in some cases, my case, I am live streaming about recovery. I'm live streaming about my bout with overeating, obesity, alcoholism, compulsive gambling, codependency. You name it, I've talked about it to a good degree. As I did the workshop in August, I realized that's what I wanted to do. And from this workshop, the venture forward was basically born. An incredibly powerful exercise. It is, if you had any thought about telling your story, this is the time to tell your story. And if you're looking for a place to do that, LEDA is the place to do that. Live streaming pros, LEDA. It's just an incredible, incredible program. And they're going to take registrations through April 7th. If you miss a day, no worries. They want you to catch up, obviously. But you want to talk about something that is so rewarding, this is the reason, this is the place to do that. You're gonna find that it's been, at the end of it, it's going to be the most beneficial experience you ever had. And the people that run it, Laurie Petrucci, Kelly Fabro, they're incredible people too. So that's LEDA. That starts Thursday. And if you were thinking about live streaming and telling your story, that's the place to do it, for sure. I can't put in words how incredible the people I have met through live streaming, through the recovery groups, through everything I've done, and everything I've joined in the last year and change, what they have done for me. You want to find people that can help you, find people that can inspire you, that can help you realize that this is a perfect thing to do. That's the group. That is absolutely the group. While I was talking about LEDA, the Gilly Man, Dr. Gilly MD, says hi to the Venture Forward. Hi to you, Gilly. Hope you're doing well. So we have LEDA starting on Thursday. We have a LEDA that starts on Thursday in a very interesting situation in that I will be recovering from the first starter dose of Oservis. And yet, I'm looking forward to seeing all this work. I'm looking forward to fine-combing this craft here, basically getting better at this. If as we always say, progress not perfection, but there's always a wealth of things I can learn about how I present and how to tell my story. So definitely looking forward to Thursday, but also looking forward to getting through the infusion tomorrow. Ob joining us says, hello, Johnny V. Hello, Ob. How are you? Hope you're doing well. Hope you're having a great morning over there. I'm going to have a moment of honesty for a second. You guys be saying to yourselves, hey, when have you not been honest? Well, all along, but I wanted to say this real quick, and I'm going to take a sip of coffee before I do. By the way, Christina Grabnickas, I met her through LEDA. Incredible lady. She did LEDA with me back in August. I'm scared. I'm scared about tomorrow. I'm scared about tomorrow because I'm going to be infused with a drug that targets my B cells. Never taken a medication like that before. Moreover, I never been taking a medication that has me infused for 5 hours in a hospital. And yet, that's what's happening tomorrow. Now, that said, I'm strong. I'm confident about this. I'm thankful to do this tomorrow and to take Oservis going forward. But I'd be lying if I didn't say I'm scared. I am scared about tomorrow. It's when as we talked about I think 2 weeks ago, when you try to figure out diagnoses and side effects by being a doctor at your own desk and trying to do your own WebMD search, never a good idea. Never. Don't do it. Don't do it. And yet I do. And like we're talking about itchy reactions, we're talking about, well, this percent had an allergic reaction to it. This percent had this percent had that. It's going through my mind. I mean, during the day, it's going through my mind. People are talking to me and they're saying, hey, what's going on? Well, I got this coming up. So, it's been tough. It's been really tough. And, I know because of the research, I know because of the things that neuroscientists, neurologists have figured out, that this is the right course. As far as the other drugs that are in the landscape, this is the best course for me. I'm trusting that in my neurologist, but also the other folks I've talked to. But I'm scared. How I'm gonna go into an infusion room tomorrow all willing? No, I'm scared. Of course I am. So that's my moment of honesty. The good news is I could bring coffee with me tomorrow. I asked that. It's like, can I bring coffee with me to the infusion? Yeah, bring coffee. So I'm doing that. Sarah says, of course you're scared. If you weren't, I'd be worried about you. Well, no need to worry. I'm scared. Ob says B cells, the cells that fight infections. Yeah, those are the ones. Now, with Oservis, they try to do a very strong job of finding the specific lesions of B cells that cause the lesions across the myelin sheath in the CNS, also in the brain. But it's not a perfect system. And it's going to be a part of time for about, I think it's 10 to 12 weeks, where I will be immunocompromised because the B cells have been basically fought against. But you figure this way, if the B cells are doing harmful things to my central nervous system, namely the myelin sheath, and things to my brain, well then I have to do this. It's the lesser of two evils. So that's what's happening, and that's the drug. So I take these 2 starter doses, and then I will go for an infusion every 6 months going forward. People were asking me, by the way, is there a point where you stop taking Oservis? Well, yeah, if the drug's not working anymore by MRI, and they're saying, wow, you have more lesions, or boy, the lesions aren't, it's always a neurologist's call. But my understanding is I'll probably be taking it for a good long time. Sarah says, yes, being your own computer doctor is bad. It is. The infusion is a slow drip of the drug. It's an intravenous drug. It has to be provided very slowly. It is a 600 milligrams for the starter infusion. For the regular infusion, it's 1.2 grams. They do 2 starter infusions at half the dosage to see if the body will take well to it. The benefit of it is that it's going into my bloodstream and into basically the myelin sheath in the CNS to start fighting against that. Sue says, well, thank goodness for our coffee. Well, yeah, absolutely. What's fighting your B cells? Sorry for stupid questions, mate. No, they're not stupid questions at all. They're actually really good questions. I'm under attack by my own autoimmune cells. That's what it is. And if the B cells are one of the main culprits for the basically the lesions across my CNS and my brain, well, it's best to take medication that treats that. Sounds a little contrarian because you're actually fighting B cells. B cells are made to help you, but yet there's a drug there that does that. There are 3 or 4 other drugs across the MS landscape that do that same sort of work. But with Oservis, there is the highest level of efficacy for what it tries to do as far as preventing other flare-ups, preventing more demyelinating events, which is the point. I was living a decent life after the first demyelinating event back in 2011. My handwriting was never the same as it was prior to the event. I think I was never the same than what had happened, but for one reason, a very strong reason, and others, I refused to take an MS diagnosis because it was one flare-up. And you think about the term multiple sclerosis, it talks about multiple scars. And in 2011, that's like having a scarlet letter on your health record, where if you try to do anything, they say, well, you have a pre-existing condition. That's not good. Now, in 2021, I feel a lot more at ease with them saying, well, there's a second round of lesions. You have multiple sclerosis. So we're down that road. We're absolutely down that road. And I'm very thankful that what I've experienced over the last 10 years haven't been too harsh. I've heard stories all across the gamut as far as different levels of flare, different levels of demyelination, different levels of exacerbation. I'm thankful that I'm able to walk. I'm thankful I'm able to hear and see on the most part, because there are stories where people get that first demyelination or a series of demyelination, and it is a long haul back. Now, in some cases, lesion, by the way, bring that lesion spelled correctly. That's right. The thing is, in the case of many of these flare-ups, there's a chance for the normal condition to come back after a set period of time. But in some cases, because of the scarring in the nerves through those lesions, those little pieces of matter and scarring, you don't get some things back. Taking something like Oservis prevents those flare-ups from happening further down the road. So what happened in November has a less likelihood of happening now going forward with the use of a drug like Oservis. Going to your comments real quick. Sarah says, Autoimmune diseases are when your immune cells attack your own cells as if they're the invader. That's exactly what it is. That is exactly what it is. So things that are supposed to be there to help you is now fighting against you, like my B cells. In Ob's case, it sounds like exactly what his sister has or has. She has flare-ups as well. Send this video to my sister after. That'd be great. Thank you, Ob. I appreciate that. And for many of you that are new to the Venture Forward, it's great to see you. Welcome to the show. Like, comment, subscribe. It's great to have you this evening. Christina Grabnegas, I just referred to you about 15 minutes ago. Hope you're doing well. I am drinking coffee out of your mug. So I'm glad to see you tonight. And she had a good question after that, but I wanted to get my coffee in because, you know, who drinks coffee at 7 o'clock at night? Christina says, will you be a mod again? It's the intention. I don't know. I don't know where we stand right now with mods. We may have enough mods, but I'm always there to help when they need help. And given that I have 500 other things going on right now, somewhat medical, I will do my best to be the best darn mod I can be. Lesions, right? Thank you, Christina. I am doing good. I am nervous as all heck. I am very nervous. I am very nervous about tomorrow. Very nervous about the second starter dose in 2 weeks. I'm just, I'm nervous. That's the God's honest truth. Very nervous. Ob says, you get scarring on your nerves, very tiny, where a human eye cannot see, can affect the body, is quite powerful. It is. It is. Because those nerves are the pathway between your brain and the rest of your body. Doesn't have to be very big at all. If it's blocking that transportation of communication, that communication transport rather, from the brain to other parts at very quick synapse-like speed, it could be the smallest thing. It could be a problem. That's what neuroscience and neurology is all about. So, I'm very fortunate and very blessed to be working with a really incredible staff at University of Pennsylvania. Op says, so that affects the motor skills from brain to body. Yeah, multiple sclerosis is a very much an individualized disease. It could affect people in many different ways because it's all apparent on where the actual lesions are lining up across your brain, across your central nervous system. The conversation I had last Tuesday with Susan Williams about what her daughter has gone through with her MS diagnosis was very telling. Definitely go watch that episode, which was last Tuesday's. Because the thing is, understanding what MS does, not only to yourself, but to the people around you, is important. So I definitely encourage you to see the episode from last Tuesday. And for that point, I wanted to talk about something else that's come this week. I mentioned a site last Tuesday that talks to Susan's site for her team in the Virtual Walk MS 2021. I now have a team for the Virtual Walk MS 2021. So let's go back to the page for that. So I have a team called A Venture to a Cure. I wonder where that name came from. Have no idea. Might have something to do with the, who knows. But that is the site, and the way to get to the site is this way. So the first site there, the BRNFR, is Susan's site. The site on the bottom, rebrand.ly/A Venture to a Cure, is my site. Either way, you're donating money to the National MS Society, which is an incredible organization that raises a lot of money to find a cure and to find other disease-modifying treatments to fix this incredibly heinous disease. A disease that affects 1 million plus in this country and affects about 3+ million around the world. There are more diagnoses of multiple sclerosis here in the United States and in North America than there are in other places. It could be due to ICD-10 sort of nomenclature or whatnot. But if you look up NIH sort of statistics and statistics from the National MS Society, those are the statistics that are prevalent. So again, rebrand.ly/a venture to a cure. The walk is a virtual walk, as a lot of things since March of last year have become. What it will be in my case is I will be doing a 5K walk in Westchester area. Could be in Exton, but I'm thinking Westchester. And to try to raise money. So that is the site, rebrand.ly/a venture to a cure. And all money that is being donated to that site is being sent to the National MS Society. So it's an incredible organization, and it is an honor to do stuff for that organization. I'll go back to the comments here. I'll keep that up for a second. There it is. Okay. Ob then says, so as you get older, your body will deteriorate to the point you may end up in a wheelchair. Could be, unless I do something about it now. And that's what the O service is about. That's why I'm taking that drug. That's why I'm taking a disease-modifying treatment. My neurologist saw a second set of lesions as what has hit me in November, December of last year. And that's the course that we're taking, is to take the course of Ocrevus, or service. I've heard it pronounced 9 different ways. Ocrevus, if you're ever curious about that. Love you too. Very much so. Sarah says, the idea is to get out ahead of it so that doesn't happen. Also, medicine is making amazing strides in these areas. Yes, Sarah, you couldn't put it better yourself. My neurologist said that within the next 18 to 24 months, there are yet to be 10 new drugs that will hit the MS landscape. There are talks about drugs that talk about the word that is angelic in our minds, in that of remyelination, about perhaps creating that sheath around our nerves. If we could find a drug that can do remyelination and protect ourselves from any sort of flare-up down the road, that is as close to a cure as a cure can be. And we're very close. We are very close to it. Actually, and what I'm going to do is bring back the number for the MS Society real quick. If you're curious about the National MS Society, if you're curious about the work that they're doing, that's their phone number down there. 1-800-344-4867. Again, 1-800-344-4867, nationalmssociety.org. Good to hear, Sarah. Prevention taking that road away from that destiny. Absolutely. And it's coming. A cure is coming. A cure, a better way of life is coming. I know it. I feel it. I really think it's going to happen quickly. I would say within the next 5-10 years. I'm hoping and I'm praying. And my ask to you is, keep a good thought in your mind tomorrow as I'm getting that infusion for the first time. Because, as I mentioned, I'm worried. I'm scared. So please have me in your thoughts tomorrow. Ob says, what is the long-term effects of the drug that masks it? Good question. As far as long-term effects of efficacy, there hasn't been bad, many bad sort of effects down the road from that. So yeah, I mean, it's a question of, hey, this is the world we live in. This is the course I need to take. I have these scars. I have multiple sclerosis. If this tells me I don't have a flare up like the one I had in November, well, darn straight, I'm going to do it. And whatever the course may be down the road, we'll tackle it like I'm tackling this tomorrow. Ob says faith. Yes, faith. I'll have the most faith I can have for tomorrow, and I know that I have some really incredible people behind me, all of you, and the amazing people I've met in the last 2 years. I know I'll have that behind me and with me, for sure. Paul, good evening. How are you? Hope all is well with yous. Is that Philadelphia talk again? Hope all is well with yous as well. How you doing? Sarah says absolutely. Ob says, hey, Paul. And Michelle says, I will have to catch you on the replay. I will message you for donation options. Good job. Thank you. Thank you, Michelle. So outside of LEDA, outside of Ostervis tomorrow, there's a lot of interesting topics that are going to be on the show in the next few weeks. We're going to talk about things like autism. We're going to talk about things that basically have become topics that have been near to me because of dear friends of mine. We're going to talk about those sort of things. We're also going to talk about the sort of things that happen within the sort of human interaction of relationship. We're going to talk about that as well. We're also going to talk about the 2-year point next month, or in May rather, where I've been sober, which will be the end of May. And also the 1-year point where I've stopped gambling, which will be in mid-April. We'll talk about all those things. We'll also try to do a live stream of the MS Walk on May 1st. So there are a lot of exciting things, a lot of good things that are coming to the Venture Forward, and I'm so glad you guys are watching. Your support has been incredible to me, and I am very much appreciative. Sue says, absolutely, you'll be kept in our thoughts and prayers tomorrow. What time do you have to be there? I have to be at UPenn at 8:15 tomorrow morning. The infusion starts at 8:30. So it's going to be in the morning. Should be done by 2:30, 3 o'clock. It's going to be a 5-hour infusion. Then they're going to hold me for observation for about an hour and change to make sure all my vitals are correct. They're going to check blood and all that stuff. So Ob says, flare up. What happens when you have a flare up, mate? Good question. Glad you asked it. The thing that happened in my flare up in November is that I had fuzziness on the top of my head. I had what we refer to as desensitization, mutedness. So when you touch, you don't get a direct feeling of that. Like right now, I don't have as much desensitization as I did November, December. But also remember that I had taken a 1-gram steroid called Solumedrol for 5 days to help offset that. Other things that have occurred were mutedness in my right ear, so my hearing hasn't been the greatest. There was desensitization down the right-hand side of my body, down my hip, down my right leg. So the nerves cross and go down. I would also say, was there one other thing? Oh, optic freezing. Like I would look and sometimes my eyeballs would freeze. I can't call it optic neuritis because the feeling that goes over my visual sense isn't that of pain. It's optic freezing. So that's what I am dealing with. Great question, by the way, Ob. I appreciate that. Sue says, last question, is someone going with you? Yes, I am fortunate to have someone joining me for the first infusion tomorrow. They're not allowing me to take, because of the interesting times we're living in, I won't have people join me for these infusions going down the road. But for the first one, They gave me the okay to bring one person with me. So that person will be with me for tomorrow's infusion. I'm very thankful and blessed to have them with me for tomorrow's infusion. The other thing is, they say that your ability to drive isn't the greatest after the infusion, so I kind of need someone to give me a ride too, give me a ride back. So basically fulfilling 3 or 4 different roles there, and again, very thankful for that. Ob says, so the steroid was like having a wrench thrown in your motor. Well, I'm not a mechanic or anything, but I guess you could call it that. Yeah, sure. Marilyn says, thoughts and prayers go to you, sending you waves of strength. Thank you, Marilyn. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Ob says, but it would be fun to drive afterward, mate. Ob, come on. I get the sense that you never drove the Schuylkill before. The Schuylkill is tough to drive in the first place. Now imagine me with Oservis. 600 milligrams of Oservis. Impossible. Impossible. Not happening. Not happening. Here comes another analogy. Like a wrench hitting the fan in the motor, and the reaction's very bad. I'm laughing. So am I, Ob. The Schuylkill. It's an expressway here in the Philadelphia area. Paulie, if he's still here, can tell stories about the Schuylkill. Not a great road. Not a great road. 2 lanes coming in, 2 lanes going out. Sarah could tell that story too. Sarah, you're right here too. Yeah, Sarah's driven the Schuylkill. So have I. So has Paulie. We all have experience in horror stories about that highway. So that's it. The Schuylkill Crawlway. That's exactly what it is. And you can't put another lane on it because you got the Schuylkill River right next to it. So it's next to impossible. Can you build something on top of it? Maybe. But then you have the river where Boathouse Row is with all... Yeah, it's just a giant mess. It's a giant mess. So that's the wonderful thing we have here in the Philadelphia metropolitan area, known as the Schuylkill. And if you're ever curious, about what the Schuylkill is, look it up. It's an amazing highway. Amazing highway. When I say amazing, I mean not at all. Sarah says, my dad was an automotive engineer. You should have heard him carry on about it. Yeah, many people do. Many people do. Ob says, sounds like we got a lot of them in Australia. I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do. And Sarah, if you could spell that wonderful highway for Ob, that would be fantastic. My keyboard's over there and it's hard to get over. So if you can provide that spelling, I could take in that wonderful highway for what it is. Sue says, thank you for sharing tonight. Looking forward to Thursday. Looking forward to telling the story on Thursday about what happens tomorrow. But again, thank you for all of the wonderful things you've said, Sue, and all of you. I love all of you. You guys are incredible. I have incredible ladies and gentlemen behind me in that of the people I've gotten to know in the last 2 years. Thank you. Thank you very much. Sarah says he knew the whole design story, and that is how you spell Schuylkill. Schuyll. And remember that because there will be a quiz on Thursday. So Thursday, we're going to talk about how tomorrow goes. We'll talk about that first infusion. We'll talk about any side effects. We'll talk about what is basically involved with it. I'm going to try to take as much video and try to take as much as I can from tomorrow. If I could live stream, fingers crossed, I might. So keep an eye on the channel, whether it's on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitch. If I can get a quick live stream in tomorrow as I get the infusion done, I will show it to you. If not, I'll try to take as much video and pictures, and I'll share all of that with you for the Thursday episode, which will be completely about the infusion. And it gives me one quick chance here to, again, plug the walk site. The walk that I have a team site for the walk, as well as Susan does. Susan's site is bndfr.com/DN5R9. My site is rebrand.ly/a venture to a cure. All the monies raised on either of those sites funds the National MS Society to help find a cure for multiple sclerosis. So those are the sites, and we'll keep on pitching those sites as we go through the month of April, as we lead up to the virtual MS Walk on May 1st. And on that, I'm going to say the same thing I say to you at the end of every Venture Forward VF Talks. Stay safe, stay sane, stay strong, stay sober. You're worth it. I'll see you Thursday night at 6:30 Eastern, 3:30 Pacific to talk about what happens tomorrow. Good night.